Hey, Andrew Woodward here from The Investor's Way, and welcome to Woody's Weekly Wisdom, episode number 82. And today we're looking at the other part of the inflation interest rate equation, and that is wages. So here's the headline: there's bad news if you want a pay rise. And so we'll skip across and have a look at what that's telling us. Businesses are tipping wage price rises will slow in 2025. So why are we looking at that? Well, if you've been following along and you've got your bingo card out, you will know that one of the reasons that the RBA has been reluctant or hesitant about interest rates is the threat of wage increases. That was predominantly throughout 2024. They were fearful that inflation and the rising cost of living would force employees to seek higher wages to meet that higher cost of living, and we would end up in a circular scenario where the wage rises put pressure on profits, and it became this ongoing argument of chicken and the egg in terms of what comes first and what needed to be addressed first. Was it rising wages or rising interest rates, which were causing the rising wages? So obviously, if you were hoping that a wage rise was coming this year, this article is not going to be great news. However, what it is in terms of good news is that wages are not out of control, which is one of those RBA factors when it comes to whether or not they're going to cut rates. And as for some unknown reason, when it comes to the timing of news, the next wage data comes out on February 19, and the Reserve Bank meets on the 17th and 18th of February to make their decision on interest rates. I'm sure they would prefer to have that wage data before they make any decisions, but they won't. So we will just see what impact that has. But this article basically saying is that businesses are not overly happy with the high cost of labour, and they see that there's going to be some slow or easing of the rate at which wages increase. So that doesn't necessarily mean that wages won't increase. It's just the rate at which they're increasing is expected to be less than what it was last year. And so if you're looking for that, like I said, if you're looking for that wage rise to meet the cost of living, I think this article is suggesting that you look for rate cuts before you look for wage rises to get that relief. And maybe that's what we're going to see come February 17, 18. But businesses are suggesting that they can't accommodate any more rapid, or it's not even rapid, but any more increase in the rate at which wages increase. Because obviously, the purchasing costs have been so high with everything else that's been causing raw materials and all those type of factors going into producing products and services for people. They've been going up, and so wages, whilst they're a significant part of the cost of producing and running a business, they are therefore problematic if they are rising too quickly. And so the general feeling is that most businesses will prefer or are looking to see an easing in the rate of increase. So there's not a lot to this other than that general surveying is suggesting what we've said, or what I've said a couple of times already. Won't delve too deeply into the numbers. As I said, they're predicting that wage growth rises will slow. So what does that mean for you? What does it mean for money management and growing your wealth? Well, I think the odds are increasing that we will see a rate cut in February. I'm still seeing some headlines suggesting it's not going to happen. I'm seeing more and more headlines suggesting it will happen. So it's probably still, in my uneducated betting parlay, it's probably a 50-50 bet that they will come down. But as I've been saying on these weekly wisdom videos for some time now, that they really do need to to start coming down very shortly, because all the other factors line up and all the other things going on around the world suggest that we need some relief. And even just within the Australian economy, we need some relief. I know the RBA will be very mindful of the political environment we're in. We're heading very much into an election, and I'm, without a date being called, I'm already starting to see political ads appearing. And so we're very much in an election cycle. The RBA will be mindful of that. But at the same time, they also need to be mindful that an election hasn't been called, and therefore the sooner we get that rate cut, the sooner we can put it behind us and move on and start trying to stimulate the Australian economy back into some form of action. So, as I said, the headline was very much about the downside being no interest rate, no wages rises in 2025, but important to understand that it is the rate at which they're rising is what they're suggesting will slow down. That doesn't mean there will be no wage rises. In a lot of industries, they're already factored into enterprise bargain arrangements. So there is going to be wage rises for people. It's just the rate at which they are increasing will be less than it has been in the previous year. And so that is, whilst disguised as a bad news story, it is potentially good news from an interest rate perspective. And I think for those people that are looking for some relief when it comes to interest payments, a interest rate cut in February would be a welcome change and would provide that relief to your money planner, your money, your household money results for each month, and therefore what's available for investing purposes and securing your financial future. Because if you're not thinking about your financial future yet, I highly recommend you do, because time is your enemy, but it can be your friend if you start early enough. So not much to go into in terms of data. Just the key thing here is that the wage rate growth will slow through 2025. That is potentially good news for interest rates. A lot of the noise in the last week on interest rates, and we touched on it last week on the Weekly Wisdom video, but a lot of the noise is that rates are likely to be cut in February, and that there will be another 3 rate cuts in the next 12 to 18 months. And that is going to provide a lot more relief than maybe an extra decimal point on your wage. Because that's all we're talking about here. That's a wage increase rate of 1.2% last year, predicting this year only 0.9%. So for a lot of people, they would hardly notice the difference because we're talking such a small amount in terms of the rate of increase. So hopefully that's helpful. And as I said, it's good news disguised as bad news, particularly for interest rates. And let's hope that they can start to kickstart the rate cutting cycle so that we can start getting more and more proactive with freeing up cash for investing purposes. So that's Woody's Weekly Wisdom, episode number 82. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. And as always, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the little bell to get notified when these videos come out. If you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, leave us a comment, hit the like and share button, and let's share this information so that more people are becoming more literate when it comes to what the news is telling us and what they can do with it to improve their financial scenario and your financial scenario. Have a great week. See you next week. Cheers.